Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
In 1982, Jonathan Wadsworth saw Bigfoot kill a deer with its bare hands. This is that story. Before we get to that, please like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. All ways to listen and watch are on BobbyDizzle.com listed below. Thank you.
Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Yo, set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take.
All right, we got Jonathan Wadsworth here from Connecticut, a 1982 Bigfoot witnesser, and of course we got Wild Trees coming live via audio. Jonathan, how's it going? How you doing? How's everybody doing?
I'm doing great.
All right, now Jonathan, in 1982, you said while you were, let me double check my message here. While you were deer hunting, you saw a Sasquatch, and what exactly happened during this experience? I'll let you go ahead and start now.
Well, it's pretty wild. I was in a tree stand, and I was watching these two does in a meadow. They were eating. And all of a sudden, this thing comes out of the woods about maybe like 40, 50 yards away from the deer. And it was on them in seconds. I mean, the thing had to been, I want to say, give or take an inch or two of 8 feet. And I was pretty close. I was 60 yards, and I had a rifle and a scope, and I did look at it, and it was pretty big.
That's not far at all.
It comes out of the woods, and it runs the first deer down. And I mean, it was on him in like a matter of like 3.5, 4 seconds. And it killed that deer in, as quick as it would take for me to look at you. And like once it killed the deer, it looked over its shoulder at me, and I like a couple of years later, I like checked it out with the rangefinder and paced it off and everything. It was 60 yards. I was 60 yards away from it when I saw it, and it kills the deer.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me?
I said that's not very far either. As far as
no,
that
not
distance
at all.
in the woods goes.
I was looking at it most of the time without the rifle. I didn't even think about like shooting it. It was so like surreal. It was like, because up until that point, the only thing I had ever heard about Bigfoot was, the Patterson Gimlin film.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't pay too much attention to it, And then I see this thing come out there and do this. And it looks over its shoulder at me. And I mean, it looked at me for a good, like, 2 seconds. And put the deer under its arm and walked back into the woods. Like, it was just like, well, mission accomplished. Let's go, And, it was really like, I'm a lifetime hunter. I've been hunting since I was 11. And I have never seen any animal move that fast in my life. And that includes deer at a full run. I mean, this thing moves so fast. And what made it even more incredible was the size of the thing. If I think about it, I would have to guess it was somewhere around 600, 650 pounds, maybe a little more. And for something that big to move that fast and take down an animal that is like supposed to be one of the fastest on the planet, that's really kind of strange.
Did you say it twisted his neck? How did it kill the deer again?
With its bare hands. It grabbed it by the head and just jerked it. I mean, like, I wouldn't want to say he twisted it. Like it was more kind of like more he picked it up and like extended its arms and stopped, and the deer just went limp.
Wow.
And
So it's like separated its neck vertebrae by default.
exactly, yeah, that's exactly what it did.
That's intense.
Damn.
You
Okay.
know,
Well, that puts the Bigfoot. I was going to say that puts Bigfoot on the. I often think about which wild animals I would least like to kill me and most like to kill me, and I like the big cats because they suffocate you pretty quickly. I don't like the alligators. Well, the alligators the crocodiles, they kind of drag you down. Anyway, but the I got to say the Bigfoot is probably my favorite now because it'll just instantly kill me. Just grab me by the neck and I'm in heaven automatically.
guys, like literally, it was less than a second. Once he caught the deer, it was over. I mean, like
Good. That's
that.
good.
I mean, you can't even like say, "Oh, what's he gonna do next?" I mean, there was no time for that.
That's a good death. That's a good death.
You didn't happen to find where it took it, did you? Like the deer kill spot?
No, like I was 19 years old, and I had like the year before I had major surgery, so like I wasn't like moving too good. So like I got down out of the tree, and I walked backwards all the way back to hunting camp, with my gun ready because I was like, what,
Well,
I didn't
said it
even
changed
know
your life.
Yeah, so like after that happened, right? There was only one guy I told, which was my uncle, that like the guy who owned the hunting camp. I told him what I saw and what happened, and he was like one of those old codgers, like matter of fact guy. And he said, "Listen, John," and he goes, "You're not the first person around here that ever saw him." And he took me to meet this old guy. And the guy said that he put apples out for it, and that the Bigfoot would take the apples, and he would come every few days or whatever and grab whatever was there. But then, like a few years later, after all this happened, like the deer started disappearing. Like the deer herd went like down severely, and like after that, nobody saw anything. But like 3 years ago, the deer herd has since come back. And like 3 years ago, I started getting like, reports from people that know me and stuff and saying, yeah, it's back or they're back. And I don't think there's ever just one of them. I think there's like families or packs or whatever you want to classify it as. We used to hear them at night. Like they would make these vocalizations very similar to what Ron Moorhead had and some other people. And there would be like, there would be three of them, and they would be like miles apart, but you could hear them distinctly, like every night in the summer. And I asked my uncle about that. This is way before I ever had my sighting, and he said, "Oh, it's bears." No, bears don't make sound like
bears. Since when do bears sound like hibachi chefs?
Totally different. It actually sounded like a big ass man, like 350, 400-pound man trying to imitate an owl. That's what it sounded like.
Interesting.
And there's nothing like that in the woods. And I don't care what anybody says, you can't have thousands of sightings over history, thousands of them. And every single one of them is going to be, bullshit. I don't think so.
Right.
And this was Vermont, you said.
Now here,
yeah, Central Vermont.
I'm going to look up the amount of sightings that Vermont has total. Yeah, that's.
And then I was also going to ask you. Something I like to do is I like to look at the areas where people have Bigfoot encounters. I have this video game where you could fly over an area. It does like a 3D model of the area based on satellite images. Would it be possible? Do you
Google Maps?
Yeah, yeah. I was going to ask you. Would it be possible? Could you go to a map, Google Maps, and right click on the area where you saw the Bigfoot? And because if you right click on that area, it'll give you the GPS coordinates of that spot. Do you think that'd be possible for you to do? Do you remember where?
Oh, I can tell you right now if you want to do it, because I'm not really tech savvy, but I can tell you exactly where it happened.
Okay. Well, so how would you tell me? What is it? What is the directions? How would you? Yeah, tell me where it was at.
East Corinth, Vermont,
Mm-hmm.
Colby Road.
Golby.
All right. Let me see.
Yeah, that's crazy. What he does is he'll do like he's got that flight simulator game that goes over it, and you can look down, and he does like an episode. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
He did it with a couple other people we have on here. He has his own channel. He's just on here as a emotional support, and he's much smarter than I am, so he talks to my guests better.
Now, on that road, is there? What part of the road is it? Is it near an intersection? Is it a long road? How could I find what part of the road it was at, to be more specific?
Colby Road runs from,
Colby.
I believe it's Spooner Road on one end, and I'm not sure of what road it connects to. But right in the middle, it's about maybe a 2.5 mile road, and about dead smack in the middle of it, there's a meadow on the south side of the road.
What is it? Can you repeat that? What was on the south side of the road? What is there?
A meadow.
A meadow. Okay, a meadow. I got you. Okay.
If you're looking at satellite imagery, it would probably show you because it's a considerable size field.
Okay. And is that where it happened? By the field in the meadow?
Yeah, no, right in the field. That's exactly where it happened.
Okay. All right.
I was on the other side of the road in an apple orchard in a tree. But I said, I measured it out 60 yards.
So how long was he out in the field when you saw him? Approximately 10 seconds, a minute?
I'm going to tell you the whole thing from when I saw him come out of the woods to when he killed the deer and walked back into the woods. A tick over a minute, maybe
Really? Okay, so that's like an eternity in Bigfoot time.
If it was a minute and a half, I'd be surprised.
That's like 3 years in Bigfoot sighting time.
Yeah. Well, I was on another podcast a while back, and like I said, I had an unobstructed view, very clear. I even looked at it through my rifle scope. It was a male, because he had his junk and all that crap.
Really?
But
really? Me and Bobby are like, really?
I have never seen anybody that posted a video that he had a longer and clearer view than I did. And I'm telling you right now, they're real. They exist. I don't know about buying all this interdimensional crap and all that. I don't know if that's true or not. It could be, but I really don't know. All I know is what I saw.
Well, it's interesting you saw the deer kill part of it, because a big part of a couple witnesses we talked to, the way that a deer kill for a Sasquatch looks and the way it looks for like a wolf or a bear is completely different. Like one looks like a butcher got a hold of it, and one looked like a deer or a bear got a hold of it. It's just carnage.
Yeah,
Sasquatch almost leaves no trace.
There was no blood. There was no blood. There was no nothing. I mean, he jerked it really fast, and the deer went limp, and he picked it up like a sack of groceries, guys, under his arm, and just walked off.
Was this like a yearling or a full-grown doe?
It was, I would want to say that year's fawn, but it was November, so we're talking like 5 or 6 months old.
Okay, so 40 pounds maybe at the most.
Yeah,
Still just that's intense.
yeah. No, I think it was a little heavier than that because it was a pretty good sized fawn, and he never touched like the torso, the limbs, or nothing. He went right for the head, and he got the head in his arm, and he like raised his arms, and he just like kind of like slammed it down,
Oh my god, that's even worse.
and before it hit the ground, he just stopped, and like it. I don't know what it did. Evidently it broke its neck because the deer went limp.
That's kind of like what a noose
Do you
does.
think? Do you think
Yeah.
it was? Do you think it was showing off for you, or do you think it was just coincidence that you were there watching? Or do
No,
you think there's some?
showing off. He was getting dinner.
Okay.
He didn't give a crap about me. I mean, he didn't see me until like well after he killed the deer, like 10 seconds or whatever. And I don't know if he smelled me or I don't think he smelled me, but he could have. But he looked right over his shoulder, just like a human would. And he looked right at me. And he wasn't scared. I didn't see any teeth or anything like that. He had his mouth closed. And he just put the deer under his arm and walked off.
It's interesting that he knew you were there. That kind of speaks to the telepathic nature we've been hearing about lately. Like you're not making any noise, clearly.
That wasn't my last day in the woods either. Like I'm a lifetime hunter, and I've been out there, and like ever since I saw this thing, like I'm kind of like on the lookout and stuff. And if you're like really in tune to it, and you're open to the possibilities, there's like times out there when something's watching you. And
Right.
these things aren't like, they don't want to be seen. They're very good at it.
Yes, they are.
I mean, like you guys are like into this. I mean, you have your own podcasts and stuff. Yeah, I'm sure you read a lot of encounter stories.
Oh yeah, we hear a lot
too. They're like way smarter than anything else in the woods. Way smarter.
Yeah.
And I'd even have to hazard a guess. I mean, like you leave out technology and interpersonal skills and stuff like that. I think they're smarter than we are.
I think that's a fair assessment.
I mean, you don't go into the woods and think you're going to outsmart one of these things because you're not. It's not going to happen.
So how many other people do you know or have heard about that have seen it in that particular area? And are their stories similar? Three.
Really? Yeah. And like all in the same time period. Like that one old guy that I talked to, like his encounters had happened over like 15 years span. So like he had been dealing with him for 15 years. He saw him a couple times, not often, but they would come get the food. I mean, they're very smart. They don't want somebody, looking at them. They want to get their food and they want to, go lay down or whatever it is that they do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like us. Like we have the internet, we have telephones, we have, face-to-face communication with people. I don't think it's the same thing with them. It's kind of like I'm going to eat and I'm going to eat again tomorrow. I think that's how their life is.
Yeah.
It's all centered around where they can get food.
Do you think they would have you thought about this? Do you think in the past they've ever killed a person, or do you think that's not something they would do?
Absolutely.
Really?
Let me ask you a question. I went through this the other day with another person on a page. if, like, say, if you shot one, like, say, like, it attacked your family,
Yeah.
or, well, no, leave that out. Just like, say you're out in the woods deer hunting, like I was, and you
Mhm.
shot one. Would you call the authorities? I mean, really? I
Right.
mean, do you want to
Probably
take
not.
a chance of like that you killed something that is so closely related to a human being that you would get arrested? I
No.
mean,
Yeah,
I don't
No.
know.
I
And
don't think so.
I do know this. If one of those things, you know, in their even a relative size range of the one I saw, got his hands on a human, it would be over in as fast as that deer.
oh yeah,
They're
Right.
that strong. You know, and I'm sure it's happened, and I'm
Mm.
sure like it's probably been reported. See, the
Mhm.
thing that gets me that I don't understand is I know the government knows about these things. I
really.
mean
Mhm.
they probably know everything there is to know. Why they're not saying is what bugs me.
Hmm.
You know, I
Mhm.
don't get
Mhm.
it.
You think it could be kind of like they're trying to protect the timber industry, or maybe it would like shut down complete swaths of the country if they came out they were
You
real,
know
something that's endangered.
that is a big thing, but
Hmm.
I think it's got to be something even bigger than that. I don't think
Mm.
that in itself would be enough reason for them to keep it a secret. I
Well,
mean,
I
what,
think the timber industry may be.
about, I'm talking about, we're either talking about the missing link
Hmm.
mhm.
or we're talking about aliens. And, you know, I'm not like one of those guys that like surfs the net all day looking for things on aliens and all that stuff. But I'm going to tell you what, like, it's a definite possibility.
Hmm. Totally.
Well,
We
I was
don't,
wondering if the reason. I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to say the reason I think they might not want to do it is because they might want to they might not want to say it is because, and I think it does have to do with aliens. I think people would be like, "What else are you keeping secret?" You know, like if you've been keeping this Bigfoot thing secret, what other big secrets are there? Like aliens, for instance, like abductions, like all these other UFOs. I think it just might open up a lot of questions that the government doesn't
well,
want to answer, or they don't want.
you just made me smile because that's
Hmm.
exactly the way I think. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't really know what the heck's going on. I mean, there's enough stuff in the world to worry about. Like, you know, our political system is like a wreck, and like the government's got enough crap to handle. But like
Sure.
guys like you, guys like you and me, especially guys like me that have actually seen one of these things. Yeah, I mean, I think people deserve to know the truth. You
Yeah,
know,
Now, have you?
I
I
do too.
absolutely do. You know, this stuff is like so complicated. It's not even funny. Like, if you're talking about like the government admitting these things exist, then you got to
Hmm.
look at who do you allow to carry a firearm in the woods. I mean, pretty much anybody can carry like a rifle in the woods. Like, if you got a hunting license, you can carry a rifle. I
Mhm.
don't care what state you live in. But
Hmm.
handguns are a different story. And you don't want to like just give every Tom, Dick, and Harry on the street a handgun. You know, you don't. And I don't know how they would like even work that out, like divide like who gets them and who don't by where they live. Because like some people live in like rural, you know, parts of the country where you know you rarely see another person. I mean I think you know I don't know. I think it's really complicated, and I'm sure I haven't thought of everything either. But I
Mhm.
think this is like a really big thing. I really do.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever had any kind of think like maybe they were surveilling you or anything since you're sort of outspoken about it? Not outspoken, but since you mentioned it, that you've had a sighting.
Do you mean since I had the sighting? No. Like since I had the sighting, like a few years after that, like a few years after the sighting, like every time I went out of the woods, I got creeped out. But like I said, the deer herd went down, so like the hunting wasn't very good. And after that, I went out there and it just didn't, didn't feel the same. I felt, like I always did before I had the sighting. I think I think these things come in, and like I said, I don't think it's one at a time. I think it's a family or a pack or whatever. They come in and they eat as long as they can until the food source is gone, and then they move to another spot. And then they may come back after. You never know.
I was asking if you think maybe like the government or somebody was surveilling you since you started talking about it on the internet recently.
To be honest with you, I don't care. I'll tell the president to his face what I saw. I don't care. Well, I ain't like that. I ain't afraid of the government. I'm not ever be afraid of telling the truth. Never. If you're speaking the truth, you got no reason to be afraid of anybody.
We've had a couple of guys on here who had Bigfoot sightings, and they were talking about how they had a couple instances where they thought they were being followed or tracked. It was crazy. One of them was spooky.
Like I said, like ever since that happened to me, like I've read about everything I could read. I've listened to more encounter stories and podcasts than I can count. And the government pops up in a lot, like 35, 40% of them, the government pops up, and it's always the same old story. There's never an official statement. There's never, they veiled threats and all this crap, but nothing out of the government.
I always like this.
I wish I knew a game warden. I wish I knew a game warden or a conservation officer that I could talk to and see what his superiors tell him as to like if something like this happens, what do you say? Because I think the government is like all over this. Like they don't want this out. It's obvious.
What I was going to say is I always like to put this on a record. Just if anybody's watching, I like to say I love the United States government. I would never do anything against the United States government. I'm proud to be an American. I will work with the United States government. I just want to put that out there. Anybody's listening.
Oh yeah,
USA. We're all patriots here.
I don't think there's a human being walking the planet that loves this country more than I do. But the truth is the truth. And like I said, as long as you speak the truth, you don't got to be afraid of anybody. And, I'm not saying anything they can throw me in jail over. I'm just saying,
no.
I'm asking questions. I want to know why John Q. Public, like me and you, doesn't know what they know. And believe me, they know a lot.
One of the reasons why we should know is for safety reasons. I think so many people go out in the woods and maybe get lost. I'm especially worried about little kids that get lost in the woods. I think that's the main reason we should know, is just so we could at least be aware of this danger that's out there.
It's a thing.
Safety is 100% the most important thing. And like you just said, like, and anybody has the right to take a walk in the woods, and if you don't know what's out there, I mean, what do you know what to look for? It's just, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think there's a lot more going on here than even like hardcore guys like us that are into the subject and research it. I think there's a lot more going on than even we know. And that's where I stand on it.
And since you had that experience and you got kind of like a a 101 knowledge of how they may or may not work. What did you think of that show Finding Bigfoot, like an Expedition Bigfoot? Like you
You
think they're
know,
kind of
the only thing about Finding Bigfoot that I liked was
Mhm.
the town hall meetings where they went in and met with people that actually had like encounters or sightings or what have you. Yeah. That was the only part of the show that I really paid too much attention to. The other one that's out, the Expedition Bigfoot, I
Mhm.
find a little bit more like serious. And I don't think that they're going to come out, even if they did like get video evidence on one of these shows. I don't think they would be allowed to put it on TV. I really don't. I think it
Hmm.
goes that deep. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they want to they want to educate the public in a way, say, yeah, it's possible they're out there or whatever, you know, without like actually proving it. Because I think the government has like a strict policy with these things. I don't know what it is, and I don't know why, but there's got to be a reason why like half of these reports from law enforcement, game
Mhm.
wardens, um, lumberjacks, people like that see these things all the time. They never they're not in the news. You don't see them on the news. You don't see them anywhere unless somebody like mails the encounter in like anonymously. People
Yeah.
don't want to have their name attached to this.
Yeah, and God forbid you
And,
mention around a scientist, they'll just ghost you completely.
yeah, and you know what? I don't even know where that comes from because they're scientists. I mean, you would think that they would be open to the possibility of
Mhm.
just about anything. But with the exception of Jeff Meldrum, I don't see like any mainstream scientists out there saying, "Yeah, these things are real." I haven't seen one yet, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah. I mean,
but
I go into detail a lot about. There's a few reasons why. First of all, I don't think it's right that scientists don't take Bigfoot or UFOs seriously. But there's a few reasons why. One of them is like a cultural thing. Like we need some scientists to go ahead and say that we need more scientists to go ahead and say that it is real so that the culture changes. But the reason why more scientists aren't doing it is because there's no money to do it. So basically
Mhm.
most of the science is done. Well, a lot of science is done is kept secret, so we'll never find out about it. So there probably is Bigfoot research done, but it's done by a private company or by a government. And those organizations, they don't have to tell you anything. It's all secret. The only scientists that have to tell you what they're doing are people that work at research institutions and the universities. And now those people, where do they get their money from? They get their money from grants. And so a research grant would be for like millions of dollars, lots of years, but you don't ask for what the money's for. You don't ask for the money for Bigfoot. What happens is somebody offers money and they already picked the topic. So the government will be like, okay, here's some money, but it's only for studying bees, honeybees. That's all you could do. So as long as nobody's going to offer research for Bigfoot, nobody's going to do research other than the scientists that do it in private. That's a big reason, money basically. Another reason is that, look, honestly, there's so much stuff we don't understand already that's not paranormal. There's so many diseases we don't understand. There's a lot of stuff with food science we don't understand. So for a scientist, it's a big risk to take. A scientist is like, look, I'd rather just study something that's not going to get ridiculed. uh, they're not going to take the risk basically with their career. So those are a few reasons. I'm not saying any of them are justified or real or good reasons, but I just from my perspective, that's some of the reasons why scientists are not taking it seriously. The biggest thing is money,
yeah,
though. If we get more money, then
eh,
we could get some more.
well, like you just said, I mean, you said it yourself. It all comes down to like money. I mean, there have been like groups, like there still are groups of people that I don't know how they get funded, but they go out and they research this stuff like 24/7. I mean, like in the 70s, you had John Green and I forget Binder Nagel and all those guys. Like they really wanted to go out and prove this was real. And have you ever seen anybody in any like that is getting funded by the government or like people that have the right to know come out and say, yeah, I'm researching Bigfoot? No. You don't
Never.
see that. How they get grants? Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, do you go on to anthropology? Do you go on to primates or what do you do? But I don't need a lot of money to research Bigfoot. Like I have like right here from my house here in Connecticut, like not even 4 miles away, I have eyewitness account.
Is that other area you said you were searching? You said you were searching another place.
Yeah. Right now, I'm barely even gotten started. I just like did Google Maps and like checked out all the terrain and stuff. And I plan on going up and talking to these people this week and, see exactly where it happened and all that. Because the deer are heavy around here right now. There's a lot of deer. So I think, if they're going to be around here, now would be a pretty good time.
But you have actual eyewitness accounts from your local area?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have one like 4 miles from here, not quite 4 miles. And then I have 2 more that are about, I want to say 20 miles away, closer to Rhode Island. But like one of them is like a famous encounter. Like it's on BFRO. I think I saw like a thing on Sasquatch Chronicles about it. The lady was like, got up in the middle of the night, wanted a drink, and went down to the kitchen to get a drink of milk, and the dog started barking. And she looked over at the picture window, and there's one of these things looking back at her. And she ducked down behind the counter, and when she stood back up, it was gone. They went out the next morning, and there's like, impressions in the ground, like deep impressions, 2 inches. And the window was 8 feet off the ground, and this thing was looking at her through the window. So we're talking a pretty good size creature, I mean, you can't like say, oh yeah, a bear stood up on its legs. Like black bear here in Connecticut, they don't get anywhere near that size. Not even close.
Yeah, that'd be a stretch for a grizzly.
Yeah,
even the biggest grizzly.
Exactly. Yeah, no, even a grizzly would be. Even a polar bear. 8.5 feet off the ground. That's pretty high.
Yep.
There seems to be a lot of reports when you get into this about people looking through the Bigfoot looking through windows at night. It seems to be like a commonality. It's like a thing.
Oh yeah. You hear that in encounters like all the time. That's like one of their things. And I tend to lean towards they're like an earthly creature. I don't think they're alien. I don't think they're like interdimensional or anything like that. But I can't dismiss like hundreds of encounters where people see these things like either disappear right in front of their eyes or like become blurry or whatever. Something really weird going on there.
We hear that actual part more often than not.
Yeah, and I think like 90% of why the government doesn't want to like own up to what they know is because it's so far out there. They oh, the government's telling me this, but that can't be true. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's just like,
definitely.
it's a powder keg. It really is. But anyway, guys, it was nice talking to you, and keep
Yeah,
up
it's an
the good
incredible
work.
story.
Well,
I
it's
did. I did.
true, every bit of it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think
You know, and
the guys that you know nearby you can you have contact with them and get them on and talk about their stuff as well?
well, like I said, I'm supposed to go out there. I think next Thursday and talk to the married
Okay.
couple, the ones that had the sighting, and these guys actually like have um like a small farm, like a couple
Mm-hmm.
100 acres, maybe 200 acres, whatever, and they have like their whole front yard is decorated with like silhouettes, cut out silhouettes of animals like deer,
Mm-hmm.
sow, and they have like 3 or 4 Bigfoots out there, and that's why like I first wanted to see why do they have them out there, because I drove by it so many times. So I went into the local store and I asked them. I said, hey, what do these guys up the road have all those Bigfoot silhouettes in their yard? And they said, well, they had a sighting out there a few years
Hmm.
back, and like this was last year, so we're talking like 4 or 5 years ago. They had the sighting, and I got the name of the people from the lady at the store, and I got a hold of them. So I am going to be able to go talk to them.
Cool.
I
Yeah.
mean, to them it seemed like no big deal. I mean they're kind of like me, grew up in the country. I mean, there's stuff out there we don't know about. A lot of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, maybe we can get them on here. Just get a contact information, something like that. Just slip it in there.
Well, I do have you on Messenger and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh
I
yeah.
will be sure to get a hold of you.
Oh yeah. We're the type of guys those kind of people like to talk to because we're not all kinds of sciencey and stuff. Well, just want to hear it.
Well, no, and you actually are open to the possibility that they exist. I mean, like
Oh
most
yeah.
people don't even want to hear it.
I want all of it, like a fire hose. Just
I do know I do know a couple of the guys that I've talked to like over the years. That I might be able to hook you up with. Like a couple of guys got some pretty like close up sightings. I mean, both of them were at night, but like it was definite. That there's nothing out there that's over 7 feet tall standing in the woods covered in hair. There's nothing.
nope.
So like if you talk to these guys and they explain to you, what happened, it could happen to anybody. I actually consider myself lucky.
I would.
I
Yeah.
consider myself lucky to been blessed with the knowledge that they're real. Nobody can tell me they're not real. I know what I saw. I don't lie. And I know what I saw, and they're real. That's all there is to it. And
I can't imagine
if
what
the
that feeling's
government,
like.
if the government decides, yeah, they're going to own up to it. Yeah, they're real, and they exist, and own up to Mount St. Helens, and own up to like you said, like all the people that have shot one.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, we're talking probably close to 100 people. I would think over the years and over time that have killed one of these things, and like actually reported it, and they all got covered up. Every single one of them. So
Imagine
that's
what
got to
would
give you
happen.
something to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've wondered that before too, because somebody had to have freaked out and took a shot if it just popped up out of nowhere.
I had a high-powered rifle in my hands. a 270, and I had a scope on it and everything. And I put my crosshairs on that thing. And I'll guarantee you, if I would have had the balls to fucking pull the trigger, I would have killed it. I don't give a shit if it was an elephant. If I put the crosshairs on that thing's head and pull the trigger, it's all over.
That's what I hunt with
but
as
I
well,
couldn't.
270.
I couldn't do it. I could not shoot it. It just it looked too. It did not look like an animal, to be honest with you. It looked like something in between an animal and us. And what it was, and where it came from, I really have no idea. I mean, I have ideas, but nothing that I could prove. But these things are real. I mean, they're there. I think it's just a matter of time. It might not be in the next 10 years or maybe even the next 20, but they will become mainstream knowledge and everybody will know they're there. And there's going to be all kinds of new laws and stuff to protect them. But I guarantee you it'll happen.
I sure hope so. I'd like for it to happen.
Yeah, I'll guarantee
it'd make my life better.
Yeah, it'd make a lot of people's lives better.
I don't know why, but I would have a better life. And
I really don't think they're interested in hurting us. I mean, because like you said, I'm sure that they have, back to the wall or trapped or whatever, and they have to defend themselves. Yeah. But I don't think they're after human beings. Because if they were, it would have already been well known.
It'd be a bigger problem than it is.
Oh yeah, way bigger. I talked to this state cop in Florida one time. I was down there. I was living down there for a while. And, I was into the Bigfoot thing because of my sighting, doing research, and I heard of an encounter. So it was a state cop. And I went and talked to him. He had since retired when I talked to him, but he told me he unloaded his handgun on 3 of them.
Oh.
And he said he was confident he hit at least 3 out of those 6 shots. He hit. And he said they never flinched. They didn't even run. He said after he unloaded his gun and was trying to reload, they turned around and walked into the woods. Not running, not injured, but he was positive that he hit him. And he was at 40 feet. 40 feet from these things. That's not far.
That's within range for a handgun.
Oh, yeah. And this guy was I had no reason to doubt what he was saying. A state cop, he retired. He was there for almost 30 years. So he's not, he said he had been interviewed many, many times. And he even said that the Department of Environmental Protection down there came and talked to him. But he said they never got back to him, never, followed up or nothing. They just wanted to hear what happened. And, so this all comes down to big time government, cover up, I think. The reasons why, I have no reason, I have no idea why they're doing it. I really don't. I mean, we're going to give millions and millions of dollars to foreign aid to other countries when they get in trouble, like they're having war, like Ukraine now, and we can't, spend a couple million to get the truth out there for the American public. I really don't understand it. I really don't. I mean, what is the big issue?
Yeah, it's probably whatever their technology they're using to do their hiding, probably, because we can't know that's available
Yeah,
for some
you know
reason.
what? You gotta ask yourself, where does it all come from? You know, where did these things come from? That could be like the major reason why the government is not talking. Because they have bodies. I mean, I don't. A lot of people like try to say, "Oh yeah, the Mount St. Helens incident was fake." That wasn't fake. What what was said happened. I mean, obviously there was no like written record of it, and they must have had a reason for it. But a volcano goes off like that, and you have a population of species like this, they're going to get hurt. They're going to get killed or whatever.
Yeah, that's like a big bomb
And
going off, basically.
yeah, exactly. And I like read everything I could on that incident. Like that occurrence, and I'm 100% convinced that it did happen. 100%. And I'm not a fool. My mother didn't raise no fool. you know, I know, I know a lot of stuff, and I'm 100% convinced that happened. And that's like the one thing that like sticks in my gut like the hardest is something like that happens and it never gets nothing ever like officially gets published by the government. And they were the ones in there cleaning up the mess. It wasn't anybody else. It was the government.
And they had piles of every other kind of animal that they
Oh
admitted.
yeah. Oh yeah. And you're not going to hear a thing about Sasquatch. You gotta ask yourself why. But anyway, you guys have a great night. It was good talking to you.
Oh yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you so
coming on,
much.
man. I would like to have you back on eventually. And if you hear from anybody else
Yeah,
that wants to come on and talk, let us know.
yeah. Let me see what I can drum up for you.
All right. Yeah, it's been a good show.
All
Thanks
right,
for coming on.
you're
Thanks
welcome.
everyone
You
for
take
watching
care.
too. See ya.
Have a good night,
See ya.
people.